My panel are back. Candice Holdsworth, Ryan Sabian, Rafe Hadel-Mancu. It's funny, I was listening to Julia Hartley-Brewer earlier today, and as I say, she was saying that she thinks that we should provide security for him because he was in the armed forces, because he's still, whatever, whether you like it or not, an heir to the throne, and he is possibly a target of the Taliban. What do you think?
Well, I think he probably is. He probably is a high-risk person. But people said to him, or commented at the time when they left Britain, that is going to be one of your biggest costs, security.
Yeah.
And having to cover those costs themselves might actually be ruinous.
Yes.
And you just wonder, did he adequately consider that, or did he just take it for granted that that protection would be provided?
Yeah. I think the trouble with Harry, Rafe, is that he takes for granted that all sorts of things are going to be provided for him, whether he is part of the royal family or not. He clearly thinks that he's entitled to an awful lot of stuff, doesn't he?
If you want the perks and the privileges, you have to do the duty and do the work that comes with it, you know? And this is all a complete nonsense, actually, because he is getting protection. If he comes to attend royal events, he will receive royal protection. They have bespoke protection plans for him, depending upon his needs. But he has such an inflated impression of what he needs and his importance. Remember, at the coronation, we had the President of France very happy to come over. We had the First Lady from the US very happy to come over. And yet Harry couldn't bring his children along because it wasn't safe enough. If it's good enough for the President of France, I think it's good enough for Meghan and so forth. And, of course, America's far more dangerous than Britain is. And he's quite happy to have his own security
he's gone
there.
to seek refuge, hasn't he, Ryan, in one of the most dangerous countries in the world, where more people have got handguns than they've got sort of toy chocolate bars or whatever it is. You know, it's ridiculous.
I think on balance in this country, if he's only coming in for a few days, I think the police should be with him, or pretty not say all times, but certainly when he's travelling about. This is a guy who, you know, served in Afghanistan. It's very, very finely balanced, and you know, if he walks out on the street, you know, someone could, you know, do something, you know, that they shouldn't do. So I think give it to him when he's here. If he's only here for a few days every year, it's not. I don't see an issue. Probably not a massive cost. It'd be more embarrassing if something did happen to him and the police didn't act.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listening to Andrew O'Brien there, Director of Policy at Demos, saying we should have a water minister. What do you think? Any chance? I mean, we've got enough ministers, haven't we?
Yeah, I think DEFRA and the Environment Agency, the Environment Department for Environment, look, you know, do enough in that area. And I think to have a sort of solely dedicated person just looking at that, then you go into all sort of realms of minister for, you know, women, men, all sorts of, you know,
common sense.
Common sense.
Who would ever come up with that idiotic idea?
Exactly.
You know.
But I do think, you know, so many people don't know how to, you know, save water in their own homes.
Right.
Can't we teach these things in school?
Well, I don't think, you know, I mean, I blame the water companies. I'm not having the water companies saying to me, please don't use any of the water that we're charging you for because there's not enough of it going around. Well, how about you collect it better and stop letting it leak into the bleeding ground?
That's the problem. I'm happy to put a brick in the lavatory cistern if I need to, but I don't think we need to because, you know, last year it was reported that 1 trillion litres a year is lost through leaked pipes.
Incredible.
That would more than make up for the amount of water we're now talking about.
Yeah.
So there shouldn't be a need for us to have fewer than our usual number of baths, however many that may be.
It's part of this new world that we live in, Candice, isn't it, where it's all our fault.
Yes,
you know, I'm going to have a sign made and maybe had a hat made or something. It's all my fault, apparently, that everything's gone wrong because I've been using too much water or I've been driving my car too much or I've been flying too much.
Yeah, we have to live with a constant, permanent scarcity mindset. We have to fuss over our bins and fuss over our energy and obsess over our carbon footprint and now obsess over our water usage.
Time for some re-education. I'm sick of it, frankly. The Royals have hit a lot of the front pages. I think we've got the Sun front page for you, which I don't have in front of me here, but they've obviously gone 1-4-all on the screen there, all 4-1, and a big spread inside. It's quite a powerful picture, that, isn't it, historically speaking, where you've got Charles and Camilla and William and Kate, and it's like, cheerio, Harry.
And I think this is the first time that Kate and Charles have met up since this racism storm, or so-called racism storm, over the past week or so. And it just sends a wonderful image, doesn't it? That the royal family are united. You know, Harry, if the author of this book is trying to get one up on the royals, and they're not going to do it because the royal family are going to stand strong. And
of course, a few years ago, when we spoke of the Fab Four, we meant the Sussexes and the then Cambridges.
Well, they could have.
This is our new Fab Four, right here. We can see
it's like those old quiz shows, isn't it? Here's what you could have had, and you show Harry this picture and go, well, instead of you going to court again for yet another case where you're wasting taxpayers' money and your own money on lawyers, you could have been standing here.
I know, and I just wonder if maybe interest is diminishing now in this scandal. I mean, I think maybe they thought this could have been very damaging to them, but I don't think it has
Well,
been.
I see Scobie's book is falling quite rapidly down the old Amazon chart, so I don't think people are buying, whatever he's selling.
Yeah, and also I think the whole thing is it's sort of desperately sad, really. As you say, you had the Fab Four when William, Kate, Meghan, and Harry were doing work for the Royal Foundation, and then you saw that picture. The Queen, was it the Prince Philip's funeral? King Queen's funeral, Prince Philip, and they walked up Windsor up the drive there. And just think what that could be. There could be a fantastic advert for this country. It's just been ripped apart from all of us.
Yeah, because all they do is whine. And no matter what they say, it sounds like a whine now. Everything does. They just look as if they're just unhappy people. And I was just in America and I was asking people what they thought about them. And they said, well, America's just not buying it anymore because they're very privileged people. They've got lots of money. There's plenty of people, just as there are in this country, struggling in the US. They don't have as much money as they used to have. They don't have the same car they used to have. And they look at them and go, well, what have they got to complain about? Because, money is very much more of a driver in the US. And if you are as wealthy as they are, nobody's feeling sorry for you.
No. Well, what's their future, though? I mean, is this all they're going to be going on about for the rest of their lives?
I know.
I mean, they made this big move to the US. Aren't they going to grab all the opportunities there for them? I mean,
I think they've taken them and they've burned them.
Well, that's true. Actually.
They're a laughing stock in America. Everyone from South Park to the late night shows are making a mockery of them.
Yeah.
Their projects have failed. I think that's why Scobie's written this book. His whole life has been as serving a selfie stick in waiting to the Sussexes, and now that they're a busted flush, I think this is one last chance to milk the monarchy and profit from their misery.
The last hurrah for him. Now, you might have noticed we've got a couple of candles on the desk today. Oliver Dowden came out talking of you're not doing enough, you're not doing your part, you've got to do more. He's warning that there are all sorts of catastrophes on the way. The thing I love most about his statement today is that, we're all too reliant on the internet, and so we need to be more resilient. So I'm going to show you how to be more resilient by putting a website on the internet. And you go, did you really think this through?
Yeah. And there's now just going to be, there's probably going to be a run on batteries and torches, all this.
Oh, yeah, you won't be able to get any batteries tomorrow.
No.
Everyone's gone down there. But are we going to turn into a nation of nutters like the Americans? When you go, right, let's get some AK-47s, lock them down in the basement, 100,000 cans of beans, a special tunnel that gets us to, the motorway in case we have to have a secret car somewhere.
Yes.
I mean, what's going on?
A lot of it is linked. There's a big report by the National Audit Office out today, so that we're not ready to deal with extreme weather conditions, whether it's floods or
but again,
storms,
it's not our fault, is it? No. It's their fault.
Well, I lived through the ice storm of '98 in Canada when I had no power in -15 for 3 or 4 days. It was just candles, a battery radio, and a camp stove during all of that. So there's some sense. But, in the '70s, when we were at a similar bad place economically, we began to have all these disaster movies, Inferno and The Precise Adventure.
I can beat you.
When we're down, we'd love to just, bathe in this.
I'll take your ice storm and I raise you the 3-day week of something like 1972 or 3 when I was at school, and we only went to school one morning a week because there wasn't enough electricity or gas supply because all the coal-fired power stations were out because the miners were on strike and so were the power stations. And I remember, I tell my kids this and they look at me as if I've gone insane. I say, we used to have 1 hour of electricity in the morning to make breakfast and 1 hour in the evening to have dinner, and the rest of the time it was candles. And you had to talk to each other. There was no television. We might have had a transistor radio that you could listen to, but it wasn't very good. And so we did that for an entire term. So like 3 months of that. And it didn't do us any harm. It was quite good fun, actually.
Well, I was back in South Africa in November, and they have been having serious blackouts now for a while. But people do sort of make a plan, Some people have generators, others will have
Well, this is it. I mean,
inverters.
my sister lives in Connecticut, where they get back end of quite a lot of hurricanes and various different storms that come up the coast. And after so many years of having blackouts, she just can put a generator in.
Yes.
And so now it just kicks in whenever the power goes off. And I mean, I'm not suggesting we should start living like that. But it's not as bad as he's making out, is it?
I don't know what the teenagers would do.
Well,
they're scrolling on their phones probably just as much as mum and dad. But, they're there and on TikTok.
Well, we know that the younger. I think there's a new younger generation coming behind Gen Z or whatever it's called, which is actually more resilient. and who are, fed up with all of this kind of, nanny statism and the gender ideology and the other nonsense that they get in school. And so they're actually going to be the people that are out there sort of chopping down trees and, making wood huts out of things and living in them.
Yeah, well, you get formed. I mean, it's a formative experience if you live through an era of crisis.
Yeah.
You learn to be pretty resourceful, actually.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's part of the problem, that we've got these infrastructures which don't work very well because the people running them have never really known what it's like to be in a bad position. The next one we've got here is the porn story, where apparently Brits are going to have to take selfies. I dread to think what they're taking selfies of to qualify to watch porn on the internet. I mean, is this going to mean nobody's going to watch it on the internet anymore? Or is Oliver Dowden going to be another, go back to buying porn magazines because you can't get on the internet?
Well, when I heard we were going to discuss this story, I googled Brit selfie porn, which it wasn't necessarily the best
Never
thing to
a good
do.
idea.
Don't advise that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a complete nonsense, The only people who are going to be affected here are going to be the lonely old elderly men who don't know how to use the computer.
Right.
Because the youngsters have VPNs, they'll know how to use their parents' passports if they need to use that. But no one's going to want to have a scan of their face, a selfie.
So I don't think.
On.
I think
the blackmail options there are going to be.
Got this wrong. I don't think people that watch porn, particularly younger people, I don't think they're on a porn site. They're just sending porn to each other and they're making porn. I mean, that's not quite the same thing, is it?
Yeah. One thing I do think is the privacy angle. All these people who do send their information out there. That's
right.
You hear about all these leaks and
right. Also, the point. I mean, one of the things that I was told as to why Elon Musk decided to rename Twitter X is that X is by far the most searched thing in the history of the internet, because people are always looking for X-rated this, X-rated that. So the search will always turn up X every single time. And if you're running one of these websites that's pornographic, there's a pretty good chance that you might be up to no good in terms of the law. And what you're going to do are they really going to behave themselves with people's data?
No.
But the blackmail options are huge here. But there's also a more serious issue, actually, because those respectable sort of mainstream websites like Pornhub and so forth, if they have those requirements, people will just go down darker and darker alleys to really suspect sites where there's terrible content, actually. So
and what is the actual point of this, anyway? I mean, I've sort of missed it.
It's part of the new online safety bill, so to stop children viewing porn.
Right.
So they have this AI technology that they say can scan your face and see if you're underage or not. I mean, they use it on
bad
Instagram.
luck with Owen Scobie. He looks about 10. He's never seeing any porn.
But I mean, I don't think anyone is going to like that. People like to do that sort of thing very anonymously. You know, not having pictures of your face.
No, you're not going to upload your face to go, here's me watching some porn. Hey, Mum, how you doing? How's it going? I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous.
Almost to me, felt like you had to upload your driving licence just to access some of that. But I don't know if they'll go that far.
No, that does seem mad, doesn't it? Anyway, you're watching The Independent Republic of Mike Graham.